Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models and Memories Weekly, episode 41. Models and Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week, and I end every episode with a story. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 DVDs a week and you stream every single night. How? Could you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I don't think there's much else to talk about. Games Workshop came out with new Xenos models and new Chaos models. And a Space Marine. So, we gotta get into this. A new, I don't even know what these boxes are called. 2 forces in a box, couple of units per side, $200, box, every now and again, box. I think that's the official title. But at least this box is pretty darn cool because almost every single model in this new box is a new, never before seen before miniature. Well, not never before seen, but new versions of some models that have existed in the past and some brand new ones. But starting off, let's get the bad out of the way first. And it's hard to say that this is bad, but the new Eldar Autarch. It's good, but everything about it is good. It looks correct. The weapons are neat. I like the hat helmet thingy, but the pose just seems so uninspired. It's just standing. I mean, it's one step above a T-pose. There's just not much going on. And what's doubly silly about this is if you scroll up to the beautiful painted box art, you see she's doing like a really cool, tucking down to dodge the blow of the Chaos Space Marine with her double-ended axe sword thingy. I mean, that with the little cape blown in the wind, it's a really, really cool action-y pose. And the model's just standing there, just looking. It's pretty bland. I feel like they could have done something, some kind of a pose. Jumping, swinging, flying, floating, running. I feel like almost anything would have been more interesting than just standing. And what's weird about this is we've gotten, if you look at the Space Marine range, you'll see lots of heroically standing. I mean, you just one leg forward, one leg back, arm in the air, presenting either a sword or a medallion or something. Sometimes you got a gun pointing, but at least that has some emphasis behind it. What's really weird about this model is it really feels like they took a model standing in a neutral pose, and then they brought one arm up a little bit to hold the spear, but it's standing on a little levered piece of ground, but it doesn't feel like the pose was made with that in mind. It seems like the pose was sculpted just standing, and then they've just, taken it on an axis and then just gave it a little tilt. Because if you're standing on uneven ground, you're gonna have one leg planted with taking all of the weight, and then the other leg is gonna kind of be up, and doesn't have as much weight on it. So your hip's gonna kind of be pressing on the leg that's taken all the weight. And none of that seems to be translated into this model. It just seems to be a model standing. I feel like if you delete that little piece of terrain and glue her feet right down to the base, it would almost look more natural. But I don't know, it's kind of sad because this model's good. It's a good model. It's a new Eldar sculpt. Everything about it looks sharp and crispy and good. I almost want to buy this model and go to town hacking it up just to repose it. And then I think it would really turn into something neat. Also, her little dick tassels, they're just her cape's blowing in the wind just a little bit, a little flutter. Those 2 little tassels in the front, they're just like Washington monuments, just hanging there. You couldn't have given those just a little flap in the breeze? So anyway, moving on to the really cool new Eldar models, we've finally gotten some brand new Eldar Rangers, and these guys look sick. They look like a perfect kind of recreation of the old designs just brought into the modern the modern aesthetic. I think it looks great, no complaints. It comes with some interesting things like a ranger specific weird floaty drone thingy. It's a little Tau-esque, but I think it's really, really neat. I can't imagine what that's used for. I'm sure it's gonna have rules in game, but yeah, all of these guys look sick. I love their long, long guns. I like their cloaks. I kind of like that they have weird spats, kind of like pants, stirrup pants, like they have their regular armor, which Games Workshop has painted red, but I suppose anybody would paint it whatever armor color they use for their Eldar army. And then they've kind of got their ranger cloaks on top of that. And then to cover up any exposed armor, they have these leg coverings and then long gloves. And it kind of makes sense. Like maybe these Eldar, like you wouldn't repaint your armor if you're gonna go to a purple planet or a lava planet or a forest planet or a desert planet. You wouldn't want to repaint your armor every time. And so I feel like they probably just swap out their cloaks and their gloves and leg thingies. I feel like that actually almost makes more sense than having specialized armor. But yeah, these guys are super, super dope. I don't know what's going on with their weird like hieroglyph in the middle of like a deer-headed man with a bow and arrow. Just kind of interesting. It's probably a totem of one of their old Eldar gods, because the Eldar had many, many gods. I think they all died at the birth of Slaanesh, but somebody who knows the lore should correct me rudely in the comments, please. And then moving on to the new fast attacking unit, the new Raptor Jet Bikes, with a 2-man crew, a ranger pilot with a partner. These are super, super cool. When I first saw them, I didn't really know what to make of them, but now that I've really kind of analyzed them, I think they look really, really cool. They're meatier than your average Eldar jet bike, which I kind of like. And it kind of makes sense for the the Rangers. They have to get, a few miles outside of the enemy encampment so that they can get into their sniper positions. I feel like having their own jet bikes makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of an interesting idea, like, because a jet bike can zoom around the board and shoot things, but now they can zoom around the board and shoot at long range, like get a couple of really good long range shots. It's kind of an interesting idea, and I kind of like it. It's very, very neat. I think that these will look very good alongside normal Eldar jet bikes. I think that they should capitalize on the things that make the Eldar unique, and the jet bikes are one of those things. So I super, super dig these models. They look absolutely dope. And then moving on to the Chaos new units, we have the Chaos Warpsmith. I actually liked the old Warpsmith a lot, but the new one is great too. No real complaints. I know a lot of people have compared this Warpsmith to the Primaris Marine red guy, the Tech Marine. And they have a fairly similar pose. I mean, they're the same unit. Like, the Warpsmith is the Chaos version of the Tech Marine. But they both have a pistol out, they both are marching along, they both have the option for a staff or other weapons. And then the Space Marine has the servo harness, and then this guy's got like the snaky tendrils, which are a lot of fun. But they're both great units. They look really, really cool. I like the scary helmet, I like the spooky face. The Dr. Octopus tentacles are super duper fun. It's just a solid model. After that, we have models that we have not seen for a very, very long time in Chaos Chosen. The last time we had Chaos Chosen was way back, like when I was first getting into the hobby with the Dark Vengeance box set, way back in the day. It came with, I think, 6 monopose Chaos Chosen that nobody ever really used. Chaos Chosen was always one of those units where you usually kit bashed your own because it's just kind of an elite Chaos Space Marine. But we finally have miniatures for them, and they look pretty darn good. They look great. They look a lot like the old ones. It'll be interesting to get to see once like we have them and we can look at them in compared to regular Chaos Space Marines, because I wonder if they're going to try to ever so slightly increase their size a little bit to make them a little bit more Primaris sized. The Chaos Space Marines are already a lot bigger than Tactical Marines, but they're not as big as a Intercessor Space Marine. So it'll be interesting to see how they work out scale-wise. But these guys look great, but the only problem is they're clearly like Black Legion, Chaos Undivided, which is great, but it does lead to this weird spot that Chaos is in, where none of it perfectly flows together. Like, I feel like these Chaos Chosen aren't quite gonna look the part in a Nurgle army or a Tzeentch army. You could probably make these work for a Khorne army. Maybe you could get them to function for a Slaanesh army, but it's tricky because Chaos, they kind of have 5 aesthetics that don't really overlap. I mean, you got your Khorne Berserkers, you got your Slaaneshi. You've kind of got your Slaaneshi Demonettes, but then you also have the Noise Marines, which are also a very, very different aesthetic. Nurgle, they completely overhauled the Nurgle range, and the Nurgle look amazing, but they don't look like this. I mean, these guys would look out of place in a Nurgle army. So it's tricky. It is tricky. I think anybody who plays generic Chaos Space Marines or Black Legion, you've got your chosen that look exactly how you'd want them to look. But I think a lot of people are either gonna have to really, really kit bash and convert these guys, or maybe just convert your own out of other things. I don't know, Chaos are in a weird spot. I think Games Workshop really had a stroke of genius with Space Marines, because Space Marines are all completely identical. Ultramarines look exactly like Imperial Fist, just a color swap. Maybe a different shoulder pad, maybe. But with Chaos, things look really, really different when you move to the different sub-factions within Chaos. And so these Chosen are great, and I can't imagine Games Workshop is gonna come out with 4 more boxes of Chosen to match the different design aesthetics of the other Chaos factions. So it's interesting, it's neat. I think Games Workshop is in a little bit of a bind when it comes to Chaos, but these guys look great. They're very, very neat. It'll be interesting to see the sprue, to see what kind of options you get in the box, because we all want lots of options. But in this picture, we can see a Combi Plaz, Chain Sword, a Power Sword, Lightning Claws, and a Power Maul. And I wonder how many of each option you're gonna be able to take. Are you gonna be able to field all Lightning Claw? Are you gonna be able to field a few different combi weapons? That's just what I am really, really curious about, is what are the options gonna look like? But these guys look great, but they're very, very Black Legion. Along with the Warpsmith is also pretty darn Black Legion. I think the Warpsmith is simpler and plainer and would be easier to quickly convert into something from the other factions. Whereas these guys are clearly Black Legion. So, but again, neat models. And then the one tricky thing with this box is the Forge Fiend, / Mauler Fiend. This is a great model. I've actually magnetized one of these and painted one of these for a Chaos playing friend of mine, and it's a great kit, super, super cool model. But if you're out there and you're a Chaos player, you probably already have one or two. And so that's gonna seriously put a downer on this box if you have to think, well, I'm gonna end up with another Forge Fiend, or maybe I'll sell it on eBay, or you have to do something to get rid of it. It would have been nice to have one more brand new model that nobody else could possibly already own some of. But overall, it's a really, really cool box. It's not Space Marines, it's Chaos Space Marines, which are totally different, fighting the Eldar. Really, really cool. Some interesting decisions. The Chaos, let me know in the comments. Chaos players, please reach out. What do you think of the state of Chaos? Like, how many people, what is the percentage of people who play classic Chaos Legions versus people who play Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh? How do you feel about the range of models? How do you feel about having old ass stuff like the Defiler, and then really, really cool new stuff like the spidery guy, the Spider Arachno evil spiky Ramo guy. I think that is the name. Chaos just seems odd. It seems like they, in 30 years, I feel like the Space Marines really got refined to a nice knife's edge. And I feel like Chaos just keeps kind of branching out, and it maybe needs to be reined in a little bit. It's neat. Please tell me what you think. But luckily, we couldn't have gone an entire week without a Space Marine. That would be crazy. And so we have a new Primaris Ancient. And this guy looks dope. I never managed to pick up the Ancient from the Dark Imperium box. I just never ended up picking that one up. But that banner was a lot more square and tall, whereas this banner is kind of short and fat. And I really, really dig it. It looks really, really nice. It's interesting that this Ancient has a power sword, which means that you can actually throw them in a squad and to give that squad a little extra oomph in melee combat. But yeah, it looks great. It looks like it has a nicely embossed banner, which is going to make painting a lot easier. There's definitely something to be said for the blank canvas banner, like the old school Ancient came with. But I think like 95% of people don't want to take on that challenge. They just want something that's embossed and it's got the details and they can paint it. So I think it looks great. And it still gives you some opportunity for freehanding because you can paint your own chapter symbol in the middle of the cross. You can paint on your own text, and then you can do whatever you want with the interesting little armor pieces in the bottom, or the shield pieces in the bottom. I think this is a great model. 10 out of 10. It's a good one for the range. It seems like after a year of giving us new Primaris Lieutenants, they're finally filling in some of the actual gaps in the codex, because you couldn't, I think you can still buy the original Dark Imperium Ancient, but I don't think anyone would want to. Oh, how good is their search engine? Bad. I bet I can't look up Chapter Ancient. Yeah, it looks like you can no longer buy the heroes of the Imperium from Dark Imperium. Now you can get Honored of the Chapter from Indomitus, which actually kind of makes sense. Especially since now you can pick up some of the models that came in that original box separately. Oh, and I almost forgot about another new Space Marine product. One of the wildest things Games Workshop has done in a while, the made-to-order Old Enemies. This one is pretty out there. This is based on an old 3rd edition starter set for games for 40K. And that starter set came with like the rulebook and tokens and some terrain. And I believe one extra sprue for the Space Marines to give you your Sergeant and Gunner options. It doesn't look like this kit actually comes with those, but I don't know who this box is for. Like I've been around for a while, and I know like some boxes are looked back on very, very fondly. The Battle from a Crag box that came with the Tyranids and Ultramarines and a little bit of terrain, people love that box. Assault on Black Reach is a classic Space Marine versus Orc box. I've never heard anybody mention this box, so it's interesting that this is the one that gets a reprint. The Dark Eldar no longer look like that. It is very cool to get these Dark Eldar models. They're neat. If somebody has a old school collection, this is a great way to pick up 20 old school Dark Eldar. But I don't know, it's just a weird box. I can't imagine somebody wanting these old school Space Marines because they're essentially identical to the the newer 2016 Tactical Marine release. And those models are just a lot crisper and cleaner, but in all other ways look completely identical to these models, except for they don't have giant horrendous mold lines. They don't have the awkward 2 hands and a separate gun where you're kind of gluing them and then putting them into place and then kind of watching them as they start to droop and then like scooching them back into position and then holding them in your hands for like 40 seconds each while you wait for them all to dry properly. Just kind of a weird pick. I also feel like this would be a lot more attractive if it came with the old 3rd edition rulebook, terrain, and templates, because then people could give 3rd edition 40k a try. Whereas this is just the minis. I don't know. It is odd. Oh, maybe this is the start of a new thing where they're going to be coming out with a lot more made-to-order, like older collection boxes. That could be kind of neat. I could see people wanting like some of the Battle from a Crag stuff or Dark Vengeance. Dark Vengeance, people still like those models. Those are some of the best Chaos Cultist Games Workshop has ever made. And people adore the Hellbrute that came in that box too. I don't think anybody cares about the Space Marines from that box. A whole generation of gamers all became Dark Angels players just because that's what came in the starter box. Whereas now it seems like they're getting a little bit smarter, and the newer boxes have always been generic Space Marines that you can make into any chapter. But yeah, just kind of an interesting, wild, weird thing. What did they say about this? Celebrate your love of Warhammer 40,000 with this made-to-order re-release of the miniatures that were available with the launch of the 3rd edition of Warhammer 40,000. This set contains everything you need to build 20 of the original Dark Eldar warriors, which you could run as Kabalite Trueborns, with their antique armor representing their veterancy across the battles of the 41st millennia. The 10 Space Marines with bolt guns and various accessories are perfect for use as a squad or two of battle-hardened company veterans, or perhaps an extremely storied tactical squad. Finally, rule the skies with the classic land speeder, which can be kitted out with the anti-infantry heavy bolter or the devastating multi-melta, specialized in taking out heavy armor. Yeah, and everything is supplied with 25mm round bases, which is kind of going to be wrong. I mean, I think technically the rules are you can always use the bases that your models came supplied with, but I don't know. It just seems odd. Once again, please let me know in the comments, what on earth do you make of this box? Because I don't even know what to think. It is an odd one. I think what they could do to immediately make people really, really happy is maybe re-release some of the old Imperial Guard regiments. They've done that occasionally. The Vostroyans, the Talern, the Iron Maidens, the Iron Machines, Iron Legion, the Iron Within, Iron Without. I don't know. Re-release all of the Imperial Guard other legions. They don't look good in my opinion, but they're classic. People love them. And they're in a similar boat to the Chaos Space Marine players, where all of their little sub-factions look incredibly different and can't really be done with one box. Like if you look at Necromunda is like 12 different shades of normal dude. That's kind of what Imperial Guard needs to be as well. Like you need to get we have veteran guardsmen Krieg and normal Cadian shock troopers. And that's it for plastic and Catachan. They still sell those gosh darn Catachan models, which is wild. Boy, do they look their age. But yeah, I think Games Workshop struck gold with the Space Marines, and then they're just holding it together with all the other sub-factions. But boy, oh boy, what an interesting week of releases for Games Workshop. Weird stuff. I think I do want to get that Eldar lady, the Autarch, and then, cause the Eldar armor, it's pretty, I feel like it'd be pretty easy to slice it up and repose it. I have to sculpt a new cape, but I think I could do it. I think I would try to pull off the pose that you see on the box art. I think that would be sick. But we'll have to see. I have plenty of time before that model gets released separately from this box set. But good old Games Workshop keeping us entertained with a week's worth of news. I didn't get too much hobby undone this week because of the holidays, but I had a nice break. I did a lot of cleaning, it's great. It's great to clean when you have time to clean. When you don't have time to clean, it's like, oh God, I should be doing all of my work right now, but now I'm sweeping because otherwise my life will completely fall apart. But it was nice. It was nice to have time to do some other things. But now we're back to the thick of things of making videos, and if you guys enjoy those videos, the best way to support us is by becoming a member of our Patreon. Over there, you're gonna get access to some behind the scenes, voting on what models to paint live here on YouTube, a live hobby hangout every week, terrain STLs, and more. But moving on to the story portion of this show, and I think that this is going to be the last story time finale of one of these episodes. We're still gonna do Models and Memories Weekly because I love this show, but literally, I don't own more things. You guys have seen every meaningful object I own, except for one, and that is what I'm gonna be showing off this week. And that is my Han Solo blaster. This is a pretty gosh darn accurate Han Solo's blaster. It is a Denix Mauser. For the uninitiated, I'm gonna go through kind of the whole thing of this pistol, but I know there's a few of you out there, you Star Wars and Mega nerds, who have seen this and you're already spotting all of the nuances and the details. But I absolutely fell in love with this gun. I love Star Wars more than almost anything. And Han Solo's pistol is kind of an interesting one. All of the weapons in the original Star Wars are pretty darn interesting because most of them have real world significance. Most of them are real guns, usually from World War II, and then they just dress them up a little bit to look just a little bit more science fiction-y. And I remember reading an amazing article that I swear on Tested's website, which Tested is Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame. I don't think he runs the website. He hosts their YouTube content often. But one of the other members of Tested, Norman Chan, had an amazing write-up, an amazing article written all about the Han Solo blaster. And a lot of that article was written about the Replica Prop Forum's post about people discovering every single detail of the screen-used blaster from the film. And this was like a 90-page post on the RPF where people figured out exactly what components went into this, because none of these pieces were manufactured for this blaster. It was all found objects attached together. And so I obtained most of the components from a maker called Todd's Costumes. That's where I got this reproduction flash hider, this reproduction scope, and this actually I suppose was custom made, but not for Star Wars. It was actually made for another movie. This custom scope mount. And then the body of the blaster is a Denix Mauser. Now, Denix is a company that makes very poor quality firearm replicas. I would love to one day replace this body with something a lot better. The real problem with it is it kind of looks the parts of a proper broom handle Mauser pistol, but everything about it is wrong. I mean, it has some basic functions to it, like you can pull back this hammer and then make it drop with the trigger pull, but this safety is completely fake. The slide doesn't move a little bit. This bolt is just a rectangle of pot metal. And probably the biggest offender, put it back correctly. Probably the biggest offender of this is this horrendous sight. This is not what the sight is supposed to look like. I mean, it sort of is, but it should look a lot crisper and cleaner. You should really be able to make out those letters. This is supposed to be a button toggle that you can squish and then move your sight in and out. Everything about the Denix Mauser is kind of wrong. It's as good as you're gonna get without spending a bunch of money, but I would love to replace it with maybe a high quality airsoft replica of a broom handle Mauser. But everything else is almost perfect. In fact, one of my favorite features of my gun, mine is based off of the promotional photographs of Harrison Ford Han Solo, because of this piece right here, which I've magnetized on because when this weapon appears in the movie, it does not have this little detail, but in the promotional photography, it does have this detail. And this is a little piece of rubbery plastic drawer slide, and then 2 little pins from a propeller prop piece from a toy model kit. Actually, that is the same kit where you get these pieces, which are also part of that airplane engine. And you actually need to buy 3 so that you can glue them all together. You can cut them specifically. I remember very carefully counting the number of little fins, and then carefully with the saw cutting it, and then polishing it, and then gluing the 3 pieces together. And I did it so perfectly that it actually pressure fits right onto my Denix body. But yeah, this piece just tickles me that I have the screen use version, and then if I attach this with the magnets, it is now the promotional version of the weapon. But I really do love this replica. It is heavy. Boy, how much does this thing weigh? Laptop weighs about 7 pounds. It can't be much lighter, maybe 6 pounds. It's a heavy chonker. Another thing that is, I can probably live with it, but this is a reproduction site, and so it does not have any actual magnification. That's kind of okay, in my opinion. Even with just kind of like pointing this around, it's kind of nice that it doesn't magnify. Otherwise, this would be an unusable pistol. But I really do like this replica. And every little ding or scratch this picks up from me not being necessarily gentle with it is just adds to the charm for me. Because mine, I don't think needs to be a perfectly screen used replica. I know a bunch of makers out there who if Harrison Ford's had a little scratch right there, they put a little scratch right there. I know people who have purchased real broom handle Mausers, filed off their serial number, welded on more metal, and then etched in Harrison Ford's gun serial number. I don't need that at all. I just want mine to be my DL44 blaster pistol from Star Wars that I would buy from a Star Wars World gun store, blaster store. But I super duper love this, and I will continue to tinker with this forever because it was very expensive to put all this together, and I will continue to perfect it. One day I definitely will replace this body with something a little bit more good. I also made a huge mistake when I was putting together mine. The original gun came spray painted black, which I had to get all of that off of there, and then I blued it, but the bluing worked perfectly on the bull barrel and the flash hider and stuff because these are made out of real steel. This is made out of pot metal. So it just it darkened it and it looks about right, but it does this weird thing where I haven't oiled this in a while, and that's why it's got these weird spots from whatever the finish is trying to do to this pot metal. But I should have gotten aluminum black, which is what you put on aluminum parts of firearms, because aluminum is going to be a lot closer to whatever type of metal this is than steel. I remember I actually melted the trigger very slightly, because for best results with the bluing finish, you were supposed to heat the metal, and so I heated up the trigger and it melted. So my trigger is actually a little tiny bit smaller than the actual Denix Mauser, but the Denix Mauser trigger does not look like the real thing anyway. It's all shades of all right, but it is even in its current state, it is pretty darn good. I'm very satisfied with this. It is cool. I actually have another copy of this gun, a Dopey Doos resin recast. I don't know what their recast is of, but because one thing you find out when you go down the rabbit hole of Star Wars replicas is you find out like, oh well, actually that That one is a recasting of the Mark Richards version, where he made his replica in 2005 before we knew exactly what part this was, and so his looks slightly wrong because he was going off with the photographs. It's a really fun rabbit hole to go down. I wish I could find that article, but everywhere I found it, it would lead me back to just a dead page on Tested's websites. But I know that the RPF article, or the RPF forum posts, are still there, and it's a wonderful read. People just getting nerdier than you've ever seen nerds nerd. It is great. Like, literally, somebody counted the number of little ridges you can see on this flash hider, and then they made estimations on the diameter, and then they made extrapolations on how many little ridges were gonna be on the whole thing. And that is how people dealt with things. One really interesting thing on the RPF that I really enjoy is the hunt, the search. Not that long ago, there's a new Ultraman cartoon, and I actually helped. Somebody wanted to reproduce one of the weapons seen in that movie, and so they posted dozens of screenshots, and then me and about 12 other people at about 1 o'clock in the morning all hopped onto Google and did a whole bunch of Google foo to find all of the different components that came together to make this one Ultraman blaster. I recognized the body of the gun as a Nerf gun, and I was so sure I would find it. And I found the airsoft gun that was a Scar H, that is what they built some of the components out of, but I did not find the Nerf gun. Another member found the actual Nerf gun that was used as parts of the body of the gun. But it's a really fun exercise, and you really feel accomplished when you kind of make those discoveries, and then you get to hold all of those discoveries in your hand, and you get a little taste of what things were like way back in 1977 when Harrison Ford was working on this dumb movie that he hated called Star Wars. But it's neat. But this is one of my most prized possessions. I super duper love it. It'll only improve from here as I acquire more and more accurate components. And it's just neat. I actually bought real wooden grips that are currently sitting in a box because, once again, the Denix is slightly wrong in all ways, and so the wooden grips do not fit. They're slightly too small to go on the Denix handle. But one day, I will have all of the proper components. And I can really get my workout in. But that is my story for this week, and it is going to bring this episode of Models and Memories to a close. Thanks for watching.